here at Calvary Assembly of God. My main title would be family pastor. I've been here for 19 years and some odd months, and I've seen a lot of kids grow up. I've seen your guys' children grow, and now they're adults, and they're bringing their kids, and well, they will one day, brother. We hope. Okay. Well, now let me tell you something. Also, I'm an ex. Well, I'm not an ex. You're never an ex. I'm a former sailor. Anybody else here was in the Navy? Navy man? Okay, Bruce, I didn't know that about you. Well, good. Well, then you'll know what I'm talking about. You're not allowed to give some answers to some questions either. I went in the Navy. I went in 1979, and some of you guys were not born in 79 when I went in. I stayed in for 7 years, and you know, being out there in the Navy, in the ocean is quite an experience. When Jamie had asked me to teach or to lead this workshop, how to keep relationships from sinking, immediately my thoughts went to the Navy days. I'm going to tell you what, I've been out there in the North Atlantic. Has anybody else been in the North Atlantic? Rough waters. And I tell you, it's not a Caribbean cruise. You won't find cruises that many of them that will go through the North Atlantic. They'll skirt close to the shore. North Atlantic, it's a mean ocean. I'll never forget, 19 years old, I was we were on a ship, and we were actually refueling another ship, a destroyer, about 200 yards off our starboard bow. Now, I mean, our starboard bow, that'd be a right-hand side of the ship. And I'm standing there, and we're refueling this destroyer about 200 yards away. I'm 19 years old, and I'm watching this destroyer completely disappear underneath the waves, and all you saw was a crow's nest. And then it come up out of the waves, and you see the propellers, and you're standing there at 19 years old, you're saying, you know, I am on top of the world. I'm on top of the world here. I've seen storms out there that would just almost not quite the perfect storm. Also, one of my functions when I was in the Navy was I was a helmsman. A helmsman was the one, my watch would be, I would be in charge of steering the ship. And I would stand, it wasn't a small steering wheel, it was big, made out of brass, and you would stand at a 4-hour shift, and you would stand there, and you would, whatever whoever the navigators would say, well, we're going to go to here. So what they do, they would say, well, we're going to go at 213 for so long, then we're going to turn. And so all you did, you had in front of you, you had the compass in front of you, and you kept an eye on that. And not only were you watching that, but the captain was watching too, to make sure that you weren't veering off course. Because you know, if you go off just a little degree, now it may not seem a lot at the beginning, but the further you go, and you could start off here, then pretty soon you're way out there and you're way off. And so not only do you keep an eye on this compass, but let me tell you something. You know, during the storm, there's another thing you kept an eye on the bulkhead. The bulkhead is the wall. And on this wall you would have, it was a needle that every time the ship would rock back and forth, you'd see this needle would move. You ever hear the terminology, point of no return? Some of you may have heard that Kansas sang that in the 80s. That was one of their songs. It was one of their albums. There's a point of no return. Welcome back, gentlemen. There's a point of no return. That means you can actually get your ship to get to a point to where you're not going to roll back. You're going to continue to roll in that direction. And if you continue to roll in that direction, everyone on board ship was put into perilous danger, could lose their lives. At 19 years old, I'm standing there. Not only did I have my life in my hands, not only did I have the Navy ship in my hands, but we had over 300 sailors on board ship, and we carried 1,300 Marines. I'd had their lives literally in my two hands. That's responsibility. Now I want you to think about, you know, our relationships, you know, keep them sinking. There are certain things we would do to keep that ship from sinking. And if I let go of that helm, that ship was going to sink. Our goal today in this workshop is to keep our relationships from sinking. These relationships include our family, our friends, and our God. I hope that we don't say this, or someone says that you're such a good friend that if you were ever in a sinking boat and there was only one life preserver, I'd miss you and think about you often. Well, I tell you what, if we have shipmates, you know, your shipmate could be your wife, your children, your friends. If we have shipmates that feel that way, we're in trouble. But you know, sometimes we may get tossed out of that boat. Jesus may even ask us to step out of that boat. And there was something I was taught when I was in the Navy. If you should by chance fall overboard, okay? If you should by chance fall overboard, there's a way that you can survive out in the ocean with no life preserver. Did you know your pants could save your life? Gentlemen, if you ever fall into the ocean, take your pants off. Pull them off. Tie the end of your pants into a knot and take those and flip them over top of your head and let the air go up inside your pant legs and they become a buoy, a flotation device. You can sit there and hang on to it. If you're ever out in the ocean, here's one of the keys. I like this Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. Keep swimming. Why? Because help is going to be on its way. One of the other watches I'd have in the Navy was the aft watch. You were the last hope. If you fell off the ship, Lord help you if that guy in the back of the ship, he'd sit there and he could hear you. Somehow, some way, he would hear you scream. And we have man overboard, man overboard. Now, let me tell you something. If you were outside in the middle of the night and you're goofing around and you fell off that ship, more than likely that man's not going to hear you. You're going to be in trouble. You better keep swimming and wait for help to come on its way. Bruce can't answer this question, but if you know you're out there in the ocean, what are the indications that our relationship may be sinking? What are the indications that a storm is coming? If you're out in the ocean, what are some indications that a storm is brewing? Let me tell you, I've been out in the ocean to where the sea has been like glass. Just beautiful. I'll never forget it. The full moon shining on that. The Bible talks about the sea of glass. Oh, it's there, guys. You're out there in the middle of the ocean. There's thousands of miles of water around you. There's no land in sight. And the sea is so beautiful. Let me tell you something. You know how a storm's coming? This is what happens. You start getting white caps begin to form. And that sea of glass just starts to get a little rough. And you stand up at those white caps and you're looking, and now there's going to be some guy in a ship, some old sailor, who's going to say, you know, storms are coming. Storms are coming. You didn't need to look at the radar today. We can look at the radar. No, here you're out there in the middle of the ocean. These sailors, storm's coming. There's white caps forming. Now, if there's a storm coming, you need to do what? You need to get ready. You need to prepare for that storm. Batten down the hatches. You know, we had equipment on board ship that we had to make sure was tied down. Okay? We need to batten down the hatches. White caps are here because we know that a storm is coming. We knew before long that the storm was coming, and we had to prepare for the ship to go through it. Our ship went, and let me tell you, I've been out there. Oh, that, guys, that's nothing. I've been out to where the waves come over top, and you're standing there steering, and the waves come over top of your bow. And you're standing, let me tell you, I never did get sick. Never got seasick. I saw a lot of Marines, sorry if you're a Marine here today, but I saw a lot of Marines run by me in the bathroom and go to the stall and throw up. I never did. It's just something. But you knew a storm was coming, and let me tell you, it is scary out there when you're thousands of miles around you is nothing but water, and there's a storm that has happened, and you were being rocked. We were in a storm one time for 7 days. And you know, it really wasn't the rocking that could get you, because that was sort of like a little cradle. You know, you lay in your bed, you'd be, oh, it's so nice. But you know, also, too, the ship would not only rock back and forth, but it would also do one of these numbers. It would go up, and then boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. So you had that going on too. It's back and forth, up and down, smacking up and down. That was a storm. Now listen, if you didn't prepare for that storm, we didn't batten down the hatches, we didn't make sure that our ship was seaworthy, let me tell you what the result is. This is going to be the result. That ship is going to sink. The ship is going to sink. It's going to fall apart. Now let's take our ships. We're talking about relationships today. Our relationships with our families, our relationship with our friends, our relationship with God. There are storms coming. Look around us. Storms coming. That storm can be multiple different things. There's individual storms. There's social storms. There's things that are happening that are beyond our control. But let me tell you, guarantee you, there's a storm coming. Jesus said that. He said it. You build your house. He said, and when the water rises, when the wind, because he said, there's going to be storms going to be in every single one of our lives. It's how you build your house. Our first relationship that I'm going to discuss today is the relationship with our family. Gentlemen, we must come to an understanding, in your notes, you can write these down, we have fill-ins, that my family is whose responsibility? My responsibility. You need a fill-in, brother? We got some more up here. It's my responsibility. It's not the responsibility. It's not Andrea. That's my wife. We'll be married 35 years come this April. It's not her responsibility. It's my responsibility. Let me tell you what I'm going to tell you. One of the things, and Stu Weber says this. Here's a problem. You know what a major problem? Now, we can come up with a whole list of major problems in America today, but he says, here's one of the biggest problems we have today. One of the biggest problems we have in America, which is affecting America today, is affecting people in America, is we have millions of homes that have the absence of male leadership. Whether you're married or not, every man is responsible for his seed. Whether you're married or not, whether you have a child out of wedlock, whether you are married or not, whether you're going to be married, your future children are your responsibility. I have 2 sons. We have, Paul has 3 sons, and they're about to have their first daughter on February 19th. We have Jude, Levi, and Ethan, and they're going to have Karis on February 19th. My other son is Sam. They have a 4-year-old son named Benjamin. They are my responsibility as well. Now, let me tell you, I don't take the place of Paul. I don't take the place of Sam. They are the dad, but guess whose dads I am? I am Paul and Sam's dad. I am Pop. My wife is Mom. And I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to the future grandchildren. And if the Lord should tarry, I have a responsibility to my great-grandchildren. If you don't believe that to be true, read chapter 2 of Men of Resolution. That's a book that you need to get, gentlemen. Resolution for Men. That is a huge book. Read chapter 2 if you don't believe that, because it's true. When a man is not responsible for his seed, he leaves neglected children behind to struggle with what? Unmet needs and anger. And then what they do, they carry on with destructive behavior. Let me tell you, that is a huge issue in our society today. We have children with no dad present. And let me tell you something. There may be a dad in the house, but just because you're there doesn't mean you're present. You may be sitting at home in front of a sporting event. You may be sitting with a paper in front of you, magazine, listening to music, playing video games. Just because you're there doesn't mean you're present. We have men that are avoiding responsibility. And they're avoiding what drives it. Responsibility, this is what it does. It calls us to actions and tests us. It reveals our character. It reveals our caliber. It reveals our commitment as both a gift and an honor. And the more maturity a man has, the more responsibility that God will trust you with. Look at this right here. Look at this, gentlemen. Here, Stu Weber says, when the man gets it right, everyone near and dear profits. When the man gets it right, everyone near and dear profits. You know, there's a flip side to that. What do you think the flip side of that statement is? When the man gets it wrong. What happens when the man gets it wrong? Then everyone near and dear is going to suffer. I want you to think about for a moment, who's near and dear to you? Ray? Who's near and dear to you? Your wife. Wife, son, family, friends. I want you to think about that person or persons who are near and dear to you. You know, if you get it right, they're going to profit from that. Earlier today, I was out front and I was talking to some of the girls that are here helping for Master's Commission. We really appreciate them coming to help us with this. And I told them this statement. You know, when a man gets it right, everyone near and dear profits. They giggled. I didn't take it as a sign of disrespect. They giggled. I think a lot of women are giggling over this statement because you know why? The man's not getting it right. They don't see it in action. Oh, it's a good statement. We have this statement, by the way, is over the urinal, right over here. So when you go to the bathroom, over here, Jen, you're going to see it. And I refuse to take it down. I'm not going to take it down. It's going to remain there. It's going to remain. Who is near and dear? But let me tell you something. Here's what's easy to do. What's easy to do in our marriage is placing blame in our marriage is like saying, your side of the boat is sinking. My side of the boat is good. Let me tell you, you know what? If one part of the boat sinks, it all sinks. You can't have one part of the boat sink. You know it's easy to put the blame on someone else? But I want to ask this a question. How many of us have ever gotten into an argument with our wife? Have you ever raise your hand. You ever get in an argument with your wife? If you didn't raise your hand, you know that you have. Well, let me ask you another question. What is the purpose of an argument? To resolve an issue? If you've got problems, get your point across. I want you to think about an argument. You ever see a courtroom in action? You got your prosecutor, you got your defender, and they're going to have these closing arguments, aren't they? And he's saying, you know what? He did it, and he needs to be put away. And the defender said, no, he didn't, and I've got the facts to prove that he didn't. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to, it starts with a W, they're trying to win. They want to win that argument. Did you realize, and I like what Gary Chapman says in his book, Happily Ever After, he says, instead of arguments, because arguments, there's going to be a winner. And if there's a winner, there's going to be a loser. There's going to be a loser. Now, a loser might begin to think, what has gotten into him? Or he may say, what is her problem? Or I can't believe the things she said. She brought that up. How could he be so cruel? What happened to our love? And then they can ask the question, what happened? Did I marry the wrong person? Did I marry the wrong person? You could be 10, 15, 20, 25. We've had people that are 30, 35 years old and 35 years plus into marriage that call it quits because they realize, you know what? I think I made a mistake. Because it got to that point. Let me tell you something. I don't want my wife to be a loser. She's not a loser. And I'm not going to treat her like a loser. Yeah, are we going to disagree? Yeah. Absolutely. We're going to disagree. Yeah, come on. Well, we're human. We're going to disagree. But you know what? If it's my responsibility, if my family's my responsibility, guess what? How my wife feels as a loser, guess whose responsibility that is? That's on me. My responsibility. If my wife is walking around feeling like a loser. The question that we have today is, what is sinking our boat? What's sinking our marriage today? Is there something that is sinking our marriage? You have in your notes right here, and these missiles, they're deadly looking. They're deadly. Missiles are stressors. I want you to take a moment, just write down some stressors that can sink your ship. Now we're talking about ships, we're talking about relationship, we're talking about your marriage today. What are some stressors? Go ahead. Somebody go on this table. Write them down. Give me a stressor. Huh? The defense? Oh, we're offended. They offended us. Somebody else give me a stressor. Finances are a stressor. Woo! That's a big one. Yeah. Huh? Children. Okay? Raising children. I want to raise them this way. No, I want to raise them this way. We're going to do this. Okay? What else? Drug use. That's a big one. Alcohol abuse. Okay? Infidelity. Pornography. All these things. Even this, let me tell you something. When we talk about pornography, it's not just the XXX. It's the soft stuff. Let me tell you something. Do you know that I've never watched a Victoria's Secret commercial? I refuse. I refuse to. I taught my boys when they were young, I don't need to watch that stuff. Now, if my wife wants to go buy that stuff, I'll give her a credit card. Sweet, go ahead. You know? I remember one day sitting at home and we were enjoying TV in the afternoon and they tried to come on so quickly. The Victoria's Secret commercial came on. I covered my eyes and I taught my boys to do the same thing. I said, boys, what are you doing? We got our eyes covered, Daddy. I don't need that stuff. So we have stressors. What are the missiles going to do? Let me tell you something. A missile's job is what? Is to destroy its target. Let me tell you something about, look at this ship up here. Gentlemen, this ship ain't going to make it. This ship is going to sink. These guys, they're going to be yelling. They're probably already a command. Abandon ship. It's going down. This ship is not going to make it. It's going to sink. It's been hit amidships. And if you hit a ship amidships, it's going to split in half. And it's going to sink. It's going to sink. And it ain't going to make it. Whose responsibility is that? My responsibility. If I allow these stressors to come in, and there are stressors, let me tell you, there are stressors from different areas. We said finances, we said children, we said all these different areas. But do you know there's also another stressor? It's the enemy. He wants to destroy your family. Let me tell you, not just you, not just your family, but let me tell you, who he's after? He's after your children. Oh, by the way, he's after your children's children, and he's after their children, and so on, and so on. He wants to destroy a generation. And it begins with us. It begins with me. Hey, read chapter 2 of Resolution for Men. Stu Weber, in his book, by the way, it's a good book called Tender Warrior. He talks about a wake-up call, and in this wake-up call, Stu Weber was a man that he was a Vietnam vet, almost got killed, and was actually supposed to go on a mission with his whole unit, and for some reason he was held back. Well, his unit was completely every man was killed, and that was a wake-up call to him. Said, you know, I could have died. I could have died. I had a wake-up call like that once when I was in the Navy. We were almost got killed. An angel of the Lord saved my life. I didn't heed that wake-up call. I was in the 80s. I didn't get saved until 1990. But he says there's another kind of wake-up call, and hopefully I can identify with this. He says, some 15 years into my marriage with Linda, I experienced my second life-changing wake-up call. It wasn't much less shocking than the first. It was another 2x4. This one didn't come out of the sky like a mortar shell, but it did come out of the blue. Actually, it flashed out of Linda's eyes. For the first time in all of our years together, I saw anger there, deep anger, hot anger. It was not like Linda. That made it unmistakable. He said, it was absolutely clear there would be some changes in our relationship, or our relationship was going to change. I've seen that look. We've been married 35 years. Hey, let me tell you, I don't have my act together. I remember 20 years of marriage, I saw that look. Either things are going to change or our status is going to change. Thought I had it together. As a Christian man, I didn't have it together. I'm still working toward that. It comes up from time to time. That's a wake-up call. I want you to look at this scripture. And it's found in Romans 8, 38 through 39. I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing will be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. And you might be saying, Pastor John, what does that have to do with marriage? Everything. Did you know that our wives should feel this secure in our love for them? If your marriage fails, or if your marriage is failing, let me tell you, it comes down to one key reason. You have not loved your wife. Now, I understand there's two words, but most of the time, the majority of the time, is because the man has not loved his wife as Christ loved the church. The result of a wife's wounded reaction to poor leadership and lack of love from her husband. It's a man wants to love a woman who deeply, we all want our wives to go to the next one in Ephesians 5 and say, well, I'll submit. Of course we all like that. But the kind of woman that a man appreciates and respects is one who sacrificially loves her, who patiently honors her, who lays down his own life for her. Ephesians 5 gives us the standard. Ephesians 5 says that the husbands love your wives, and some of us have it as a tattoo. I point to Ray. That's a reminder to him. That can't be taken off. Well, it can. It's going to be very painful. He has a reminder on his hand. Ephesians 5. I'll leave the Ephesians 5 man. That's our standard. Did you know that when Christ died for his bride, she was dirty? It's the church. When Christ gave himself for his bride, she was dirty. She was sinful. She was acting like his enemy. Yet, Jesus still chose to love her and lay down his life for her. Not in a quick, easy type of death. No, we all know Jesus was mocked. He was beaten. He was just brought down. And he suffered this death for what? His bride. Because that is why he came. When you and I, if you're married today, and if you're not, take these words and store them away and use these words. When I said I do to Andrea, I meant it. It's till I die. You see, he is my standard. And when we follow the standards of Jesus, amazing things are going to happen. We disconnect from our mate's imperfections. We no longer look at the things she's doing wrong, but instead we plug into God's unchanging nature. Instead of I love you because, you can fill in the blank. I love you because you make the best roast beef. Or I love you for what you do. I think you're beautiful when you get all dressed up. Aren't you just the most beautiful thing, huh, when she has a beautiful dress on? But how about when she wakes up in the morning and her breath is stinky? Is she beautiful? Yeah. So instead of saying I love you because, we're going to say I love you, period. I love you when you're beautiful, and I love you when you're not. I love you when you treat me well, and I love you when you don't. And I'm daily relying on God's unconditional love to pour through what? Through my life into you. For better or for worse. In sickness and in health. Till what? Till death do us part. That's the standard. That's the way Jesus did it. I'm going to stick with you. Aren't you glad that Jesus doesn't say, hey, I'm only going to like you, or I'm only going to love you when you follow me, or I'm only going to love you when you read your Bible. I'm only going to love you. No, he loved us even while we were sinners. Christ died for us. Huh. Here's something really neat. If you're married today, or if not, store this away and do it when you do get married. I want you to ask your wife, hon, I want you to give me a report card. I want you to grade me and tell me how I'm doing. Let me have it. And be prepared to hear the answer. If she gives you a D, accept that D. Accept it. Because that's what she said. She's feeling that way. She gives you an A, smile. And then you work. You know what you do? You work on bringing that D up to a C. Because no matter what we may say, there's always some truth in comments. I challenge you, gentlemen, today to accept the duties that God has given you. Take this steering wheel, take this helm back into your hands to guide, protect, and provide for your family. Don't force your wife or children to shoulder what is rightfully is on you. While you live and breathe, resolve to bloom and protect everything that has been put under your care, under my care. Embrace responsibility. Love it, live it, teach it to your children. Model it at home and at work. Initiate it with other men around you. Be the man who makes the call and takes the heat. Be that man that your wife says, that's my man. That's my man. You're my hero. I can remember a couple years ago I had to step up to that because we were in a position to where we were taking care of my wife's mother who had dementia, and we were living in her house. We had put our house up for rent, and the renters left in the middle of the night, left us high and dry. And I remember we found that out on a Monday morning, and on Tuesday I was out, and we had made we made a verbal obligation to the family, said we'll stay here for a year in August, and this was happening in February. And I told my wife, I said, hon, I think that we should stick to our obligation. We told the family we stick it out till August. I looked at my wife's face. The lip began to quiver. I didn't know that the pain she was going through. I jumped on my white horse, my white stallion. I rode in, and I saved my princess. I saved her, and I said, you know what? We're moving back home. We're giving the family 30 days. You can find somebody else to take care of mom. My wife was more important to me than that. Easter that year was more than a resurrection day for Jesus our Lord. That's the day we moved back into our house. It was a resurrection for our marriage. Our life was resurrected as we began to say, we're home again. And I resurrected it. I became the hero. I was the man. She said, that's my man. Making a tough decision. Our second relationship today, gentlemen. Again, our family is my responsibility. The second one we're going to focus on is our friends. I want you to list your top 3 friends. Write them down. Can't be your wife. Lord bless you, fellas. That's okay. It cannot be your wife. One of the writers said, if you say your wife is your best friend, guess what he calls that? Well, that's a cop-out. Oh, my wife is, I love my wife. She's my best friend on another level. But who is your best friend? Who's your top 3 friends? Write them down. Look at this scripture right here. Your love for me was wonderful. More wonderful than that of women. You know who said that? David said it. You know who he said it to? Jonathan. That was a man saying that to another man. How would you like if I walked up to you and said, hey, you know what? Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than the love of women. What you talking about, Willis? We probably would think that. But you know what this is? This is a different type of love, isn't it? You I love you, man. It goes beyond that. I love you, man. He goes, you know what, brother? I do love you. That's the kind of friends that we should have in our lives today. That's the kind of friend. You know why? Because men, let me tell you something. Men, we are at war. You and I were at war. Men need men. You need a man in your life. We need other soldiers. When I was on board ship, we all fought that fire. There was no place to run and hide. You had to fight. And I like the Roman soldiers, they fought together. They had each other's back. They guarded each other's backs. They looked out for each other. We're in this fight. Let me tell you something. You know, we have men. Do you have a man in your life that you can call, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I need you. I need you right now. Can you please pray, or can you come? I'm going to tell you what. I have men in my life that can do that. And they know that I'll be there for them. I will. And they know it. And let's talk about friendship. There are 4 principles of masculine friendship. Here we go. The 4 principles of masculine friendship is, number 1, your friend, your masculine, your friend, whoever you wrote down, ask a question. Do they have the shared values that you have? Are they serving the same God as you? Are they honest? Are they men of honesty? Are they men of integrity? Are they men of duty to family? Would you get advice from a man about your marriage, that his marriage is falling apart because of his infidelity or of his lack of male leadership in the home? No. I want to call him to say, hey, brother, can you help me out here? Because he's not going to give me that good advice. We need to have men that they serve the same God. They Christian men that have their heart after God. We also need to have men who have it's called an unselfish type of love. Their unselfish love for each other is, hey, what can I put into it? You know, I have friends that, you know, that are very controlling, but they're not really my friends. They're my associates. Because it's their way, or it's the highway. You know, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved David as himself. We need a battle buddy, because we are at war. I want to know that man right there in that foxhole, with that man on board ship with me, that if I fall off that boat, he's going to jump in and he's going to grab me. And he's going to bring me back. You know, I think recently there was a guy from Afghan who had rescued, an Afghanian who had rescued one of our soldiers, and they met again. And the man remembers this man put himself in danger to save his life. That's the kind of friends we need. Friends who stand by unselfishly. They stand by unselfishly. Friends also that have a deep loyalty. They have a deep loyalty that they say, you know what? You are my brother. It's this attitude that I'm going to be here. I'm going to be your friend no matter what. A man-to-man friendship says, I'll never quit being your friend. I'll never walk on you, barring unrepentant sin against the Lord. Unrepentant sin against the Lord God. You'll never be able to do anything that will repulse me or break up our fellowship. Who is that man in your life? We need that type of man in our life. Every single one of us. I do, we do. Also, we need friends that have a real transparency, that they're unconcerned with an image. They're transparent. And and just like in any kind of other communication, there's 5 communication levels that I just want to quickly go through. We have the cliche level. Hey, how you doing? Sup? That's just a cliche level. And then we have a fact level. Remember the show Dragnet? Just the facts, man. That's sharing what you know. Then we have some friends, they give you their opinion. Well, in my opinion, here's my opinion. That's the opinion level, sharing what you think. But then you have this. You have what's called the emotional and transparent level, sharing who you are. No selfishness, trying to get, not being self-centered. What can I get out of this friendship? But instead is what can I put into it? All of us need that kind of man. Since core values are critical to intimate friendship, we need to list our core values. What are your core values? You don't need to take a moment right now because of time, but I want you to sit down sometime and think about what are your core values. And if this man, and hopefully your core values, by the way, are godly. Number one, godly. They have to be godly. Finally, we have our last relationship, which is not our least, by the way. It's God, our relationship with God. Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Let not the mighty man glory in his might. Nor let the rich man glory in his riches. But let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, exercising loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. For in these I delight, says the Lord. Our lives were designed, created, and intended to honor God, not ourselves. Our lives were designed, created, and intended to honor God, not me. Our relationship with God has to be the central part of my life. Our relationship with God has to be the central part of the relationship of my life. We have one life to live, and living it for ourselves, it's futile. True fulfillment comes only by gratifying the giving God and the glory that what? And He deserves. We heard that next door. It's God that deserves this. We soak in the praise of the presence of God. If we don't do this, our lives become futile and they rot over time. You've heard the story of the wise and foolish builders. There's a storm coming. There's a storm coming. You know the story here. What are you building your relationships on? What are you building your house on? Let's look at this. Instead of house, let's put the word relationship in there. Is it built on the rock or is it built on sand? If it's built on the rock, we know that when the missiles come, it's going to stand. It's going to stand up against this. Whether it's our relationships with our wives, our children, our friends, it's going to stand. If we build it on ourselves, it's going to crumble. Little boys, I always sort of tell them, the relationship with girls, they hold door for little girls, I always say, hey, one of these days you're going to thank me for that. Because if you don't do this, you're going to wind up living a long, lonely life. If you don't treat the girl right, you're going to live a long, lonely life. I'm so glad that my wife and I have a godly relationship. I'm glad that I have a relationship with God. God is above my wife. I love God more than I love my wife. I want my wife to love God more than she loves me. I want my children, my boys, to love God more than they love me. And I love God more. Why? Because I'm able to love my wife. There's sometimes the only love I can give is the love of God. I talked to a gentleman one time and I said, brother, because he was having some problems with his marriage, I said, brother, well, then love her with the love of God. Well, I've tried to do that. You don't have enough God's love in you. You see, if you fill up on God's love will be given. If you don't, then you can't give God's love. So then, brother, you don't have enough God's love. So how do we get God's love? Well, it's through our prayer life, it's through our devotion life. It's us, in that song we sing, surrendering ourselves. God has got to be the central part of our lives. The next is after God. Our relationship with our family is next. God first, family second. Now, if you're married, it's the wife is over the children. You can't say it's my kids and it's my wife. No. Because guess what? One day these kids are going to leave. And it's going to be you and her. And if you've been building your relationship with your kids over your wife, you're in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. But our relationship with our family is what? Stamped out of our relationship with God. And then we have our personal relationships. These are our friends, work associates, and these are the men that you wrote down. These are the men that are poured in your life that you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you can call at any moment, okay, because you need them and they're going to be there. Or they can call you and you're going to be there for them. These are men that you know these are godly men. But look at this. These arrows right here are going back and forth. You know what that says? My relationships with my family, my relationships with God, my relationships with my friends. All these relationships are filtered through my relationship with God. They have to be. They have to be. Even with our unsaved friends, let it filter through God. Let you be the light that shines unto them. We're going to have missiles. These outside arrows right here, they're going to be missiles. You know what, again, a missile's job is to do what? Is to destroy. Is to destroy its target. It will attack and destroy. That's its function. If we allow those missiles to hit that target, it's going to be in trouble. Storms are coming. It's going to come. There's going to be rough waters ahead. We're not going to lie about that. Jesus didn't. We're not going to lie about it. 35 years of marriage, I can't say that we've been on the sea of glass the whole time. We've gone through some heavy waves. Sometimes you got to pull your ship into the dry dock and you got to lift it out of the water and you got to go through and do some repairing and you got to put it back in its place. Sometimes you might need help from somebody to do that. And that's my friends. Who's going to give it to me straight. I don't want them to sugarcoat things with me. We had to be held accountable at times to someone. Hey, how am I doing? Ask your wife how you doing. Let her grade you. Missiles are coming. They're outside influences that will sink your boat. So here's the final question. So, why me? Why is this all on me? Because I'm the captain. God has ordained me to be the captain. The captain. I am responsible for my ship. I am responsible for my family. I'm responsible for my friendships. I'm a responsible man, a godly man. It's my responsibility. Adam tried to push that responsibility over to Eve. What did God say? Adam, where are you at? He didn't ask where Eve was. Adam? Where are you, Adam? Well, did you eat from the tree? Well, she told me to do it. Well, look back in Scripture. Who stood there when she picked the fruit? Adam. He says he took it, he ate it, because he was there with her. He didn't say a word. He stood right there and kept his mouth shut the whole time as she was committing this sin. And allowed her to do it. I'm not saying we get up in heaven and slap Adam, but we can't blame him. Because it's on us. Adam received the commandment. He knew he was the captain, as you and I are captains. Let's pray. Father, we thank you today. Thank you, God, that the call that you place in our hearts. We pray for our families, our wives. Lord, we pray right now for us that we would be godly men. You're not looking for a good husband. You're not looking for a good dad. We're looking for a man who is after your heart. And God, as we are searching after you, as we lay down our lives, as Christ laid down his life for his bride, help us to daily lay down our lives for our bride. They deserve it. They are our mate. You gave us our wives, not for us to lord over them, to be our helper. And so, Lord, help us, Lord. Number one, be a godly man. And out of being a godly man will be a godly husband. And a godly husband will be a godly father. Thank you, God. Lord, wherever our relationship is, we could turn this ship around. With your help. We can't do it by ourselves. We thank you, we love you, and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you.